Boxing is called the sweet science for a reason. If you don't fight smart, you'll end up getting dumped by all the punches. In this video I will break down 10 essential boxing theories that you have to apply in your training and then in the ring. We'll start with the basics and build up to the more advanced stuff. So stick around till the end and consider this a first step to getting a PhD in your boxing IQ. And the first theory is attacking in phases. So basically there is a formula of a basic attack and it looks like this: enter, punching, exit. And now let's break it down. First of all, you have to enter the range because you have to be able to reach your opponent. If you're shorter, that's very important for you because you have to get inside without getting hit. So you start moving, you move your head, you get closer, you dodge punches, then you explode with your own combination. That's the punching part. And then you exit because your opponent won't just stay there and admire your combination. They will attack you as a counter. That's why you have to do a defensive move to exit safely. That was a very basic structure, but then you can build up on that as well. For example, you get closer, then you do a provocation, just to drag a counter from them. So they throw a punch, you anticipated it, you dodge it, you throw your punches, and then you exit. It's already 4 phases. And then you can build up even more. You get closer, you provocate them, you dodge, you throw your attack, then you do defensive move, you angle out, you attack from a different angle, and then you exit. This sequence is already high level stuff, and you know what else is high level? That's right, Hayabusa fighting equipment. Code Andrei gets you 10% off for all Hayabusa gear, second link in the description. So, what you can take from this and apply in your training is focusing on every phase individually and then putting them up together. The next one is the second intention theory, and it's basically when you hide a trap behind a certain move. And now let's break it down. For example, you throw a sharp jab once, twice, then the third time, and the first intention of this punch is to obviously hurt your opponent, and he already knows that. But then you throw kinda a lazy jab, and then this one has the second intention, because it's not to hurt him, because you expect him to dodge that punch and try to go after you, and then when he does go after you, you counter him, and that was an successful trap. Also, you can use this theory for defense as well. For example, imagine fighting a shorter guy who has you in the pocket and he starts working really hard on you and you start clinching him. The first intention will obviously be to stop him from punching, but then you can also hang on him to drain his energy. So use your moves smartly and always try to trick your opponent. Next up we got the rule of threes. Basically, when a certain technique or tactic works twice in a row, your opponent will likely adjust and start countering you if they got at least some experience. For example, you go with the jab to the body once, twice, then it would be best on the third time to go with an overhand after faking low, or go with a lead hook to the head after faking low. And a great example of that will be Floyd Mayweather against Diego Corrales. And you can not only use it for setting traps, but to set counters as well. For example, your opponent throws the jab, you do a pullback, then you throw the cross. You do that once, twice, and on the third time you switch up your tactic and you do a pullback and throw the leaping lead hook. And that will most likely work because it will give your opponent a different look and that will confuse them. So don't repeat yourself time after time and switch things up. The next theory is hand punches and whole body punches. You may heard that hand punches are bad and it's a total because it won't hurt anyone. But the truth is that you can actually mix up both types of punches. For example, you can start with hand punches to get in range, to distract your opponent, to get their reaction, and then emphasize a power punch. A good simple combo will be a double jab, just to get close, to make them cover up, and then go with a hook to the head, or with a cross to the head or to the body. The next theory is energy management. So basically you don't want to gas out too early in a fight, and you also don't want to be that guy who says, "Yeah, I could go another 3 rounds" after losing a fight. That's total Okay, and how do you manage energy in the fight? First of all, you start lighter when the first bell rings. Then you throw lighter shots, you learn your opponent, and as the fight goes on, you put up more intensity, you put more effort, and try to hurt your opponent. And then in the end of the fight, you try giving everything you've got. But that all can change on the situation in the fight. Let's say you're winning the fight, so you can rest a little bit in the middle just to take a break, to play around with your opponent, and then catch a breath and finish them off. Or if you're losing, you may use some dirty tactics. For example, you can wrestle in the clinch just a little bit to make them tire up and then take advantage of that. And no energy management will help if you have just a shitty conditioning. That's why if you want to boost your boxing performance, definitely get the KO boxing package, which has 50 boxing workouts for boxers of different levels. It has strength and conditioning plan, and it has a community with all the members where we share our sparrings, fights and give each other feedback. If you want to level up your boxing game, get the KO boxing package, first link in the description. Moving further, we got distance management theory. So basically, on every single range, your tactics will change. At the long distance, you will stay in a more bladed stance, you can keep your long guard extended, you will throw jabs, cross and lead hooks. You can also throw extended uppercuts, but not that often. And for defense, you will use mostly your footwork, you will use parries, blocks and sometimes your head movement. Then at the middle distance, you can get hit with every single punch and you can reach your opponent with every single punch. That's why you will stay a little bit more squared, you will have to keep your hands higher all the time and closer to yourself, and you can throw any punches and use all defensive moves together. At the close distance, you will have to keep your hands up, stay in a more frontal stance, you will have to move your head all the time for defense, and your punch selection will be mostly hooks and uppercuts. And you can use your footwork to create angles really fast and attack from a different position. And then finally you have the safe range. It's where you and your opponent can't hit each other, so just when you are at the distance, use your time to relax and reposition smartly. The next one is triangle or rock, scissor, paper theory. It's about boxing styles, and the three main styles are outfighter, infighter and slugger that go in this equation. And outfighter is like a paper, so it flows like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Then you got scissors, which are infighters, and they're sharp, they're fast, and they have to get close in order to cut you. And then you have this huge, heavy, solid rock, which is sluggers. And of course, it all depends on level of fighters and it all situational, but usually outboxers just play around sluggers and they beat them. Then sluggers beat shorter infighters because infighters have to get in range, and that's exactly what sluggers want. And then infighters beat outfighters because they fight in the pocket and just beat them up there. And a great example of these matchups will be Muhammad Ali, George Foreman and Joe Frazier, because they beat one another and they represent each of the three styles that I mentioned. The next theory is ring generalship, and it assumes that your position in the ring either gives you more opportunities or it limits them. For example, you got into a corner, so you have three options to get out of there. You can fight hard to reclaim your position, so basically fight off your opponent. Then you can find an opening, for example, they throw a wild overhand, you duck under it and you pivot around it. Or you can clinch, you can just tie up and hope for a referee to break you apart. Or let's say now you're the one who applying pressure and you have your opponent in the corner, so you definitely want and should use your pressure smartly to throw feints and to make your opponent guess out. You also want to cut off escape routes to keep them into a corner and just make their position worse, and then take advantage of that, get close and them up in the corner. Our next theory is orthodox versus a southpaw matchup. And basically, when you fight an opponent in a different stance, your lead foot and hand will be super close to one another and it will create a lot of nuances. And let's go over some of them. So, when you fight a guy in an opposite stance, you want to first of all establish your lead foot. So let's say if you have an outside position, that's great because you can line up your power punch with your backhand. But if let's say they have that position, you can also use that and you can slip to your backside and then go with that cross, for example. Or you can step in with a quick jab inside. That will also work. So always be aware of your lead foot positioning. Then you have to play around with your lead hand. You can pull their hand down, you can lift it up, you can move it to a side, you can throw a punch inside, you can go around it. And there are so many ways to play this game, and you definitely don't want to be the one losing this game. Another thing will be creating angles to your lead side. and that's actually what made fighters like Loma and Usyk so great. Basically, when they have that outside foot position, they do this pre-sweep, they create an angle and attack you from a completely different position where you feel weak and they feel really strong. That's why you always have to be aware of that. The next we got the lane theory. It assumes that from a certain position you can throw only specific punches effectively. By effectively I mean fast, hard, and without taking too much risk. So basically there are 5 lanes: jab lane, closed lane, center lane, open lane, and the cross lane. And the punch selection also depends on the distance in each lane. For example, we are at the long distance and we are in the jab lane. Obviously the best punch will be the jab, but if you decide to go with the rear uppercut, you will just miss, open up, and get countered. Now let's imagine we are in the center lane at the close distance, and then if I decide to throw an uppercut, that will work, that's a good punch to select. But if you throw a hook in this lane, your opponent will just catch it and shoot, and you will get countered. So for each lane, at each distance, there are only certain punches to throw. And you may ask, okay, what do I do with all the info and how do I learn all of these punches? Okay, first of all, I can't cover all of those punches because it's too big of a topic. If you want to dig deeper into this, definitely check out Coach Bambara, because everything I know about this topic is from him. And second of all, what you can do with this is create a lot of drills, offensively and defensively. When you know which punch to throw from which position, you also know which punch to expect coming your way from each position, so you can predict them even before they are thrown. And then you can create a lot of drills. For example, you start in the cross lane, someone throws the cross. If they slip inside, you can throw the lead hook because they will be in good position, and your partner will do a slip and roll, and then you will just drill it out until it's in your muscle memory. It may sound like rocket science if you're a beginner, but as you start thinking about this more and you find more examples in practice, it all starts to make a perfect sense. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to hit the like button, be subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Also, you may like this video right here, where I share different ways to boost your fighting IQ. Thanks for watching and stay sharp!